Okay, good evening. We're up to Daf Yomi Zion. We are on Lamed Vav Amid Beis, and we're in the sugya what of tefillin. We're in the sugya of tefillin. The last thing we discussed is the person should be memashmis tefillin kal v'chomer from the tzitz. The tzitz only has one mention of Hashem's name, Kodesh LaHashem, and tefillin, which certainly, so we should be memashmis with tefillin. That means that you should always be aware of your tefillin. You shouldn't have hadas that you're wearing your tefillin. Tan Rabbanim, 3 lines to the bottom. It says, the pasuk says, okay, what is yodcha? Zu small. When it says yodcha, that means the left. It means left. Stam hand means left. Atayim is small or ein el yamin. Maybe means right. So Talmud Lamed is going to go ahead and bring three psukim. He's going to go ahead and bring three psukim. Okay. What's the first pasuk? Af yedei. Af yodi yasta aretz, v'mino tibcha shamayim. So it says af yodi yasta aretz, and then it says v'yemini, am I right? Tibcha shamayim. So what do you see when it says yemini right? It must be when it previously said yad. It must be small, right? It said you tell me af yodi yasta aretz, and then it says v'yemini. So yasta must be small. This is another pasuk. Another pasuk v'omer yoda. Liyase tishlachna v'mino lahalmos emelim. Again, you have the lashon of yad first, and then yemini. V'omer, third time a hat trick. Lama tashiv yadcha v'yemincha mikerev cheikha kalei. So again, you see when it says yad, because it says yemini afterwards, and when it says stam yad, it means left. So therefore, it says when the pasuk says v'yeh l'chola ois al yadcha, it should be for nice on your left hand. It should be for ois on your left hand. That's the Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi HaChoyrim says, we'll get back to that in a minute. Rabbi Yossi HaChoyrim Maimer, Matzinu Yamin Shemikri Yad. You find Yamin is called Yad, Shneimar, Vayar Yosef, Ki Yoshes Aviv Yad Yaminoi, by the brichas of Ephraim and Menachos. Says he saw that his father Yaakov put his hand on the right hand on Ephraim. So you see that what? That Yad is Yaminoi, not just left. The Idach, the other Tana, Yad Yamin Ikri, Yad Stam lo Ikri. That pasuk says Yad Yamin. No, it doesn't say Yad Stam. I didn't say, Yad Yamin is talking the right hand, but Yad Stam is what is the left. So that's the limit of the Tanakama, guys. That you should always put it on your left hand. Should always put it on your left hand. Reb Nasan Omer, Ein et Sarich, Hariu Omer, Ukishartem, Ukesavtem. The pasuk says, Ukashatim la'ois al yadecha, vayu tatvos beinenecha, uchesavtom al mezos beisecha b'shurecha. You might remember that pasuk. Okay, maksiva biyamin, Rashi, kishekoisvin amezuzah biyamin. When you write the mezuzah, you're writing with the right hand. Why? The roiv b'nei adam koisvin biyamin. Most people write with the right hand. Right? Actually, it's 90%. The statistics is 90% of the population is right-handed. Only 10% are left-handed. You think it's higher. It's not. 10% is left-handedness. So now, af kshira nami avad kesher biyamin. So you make the kesher, while you tie it on, you put it what? You do it with your right hand. Umid the kasher biyamin, when you're tying with your right hand, mechlal must be hanacha b'smal. It must be that you lying the tefillin on your left hand. If you put it on your right hand, there's no way you can go ahead and wrap it with your right hand. So therefore, shatim chesaftem, mak siva, just like siva of mezuzah, biyamin, because roiv people write with their right hands. Af kshira biyamin, the kivin de shari biyamin, hanacha b'smal. Since the kshira, I said the kshari, even the kshira biyamin, hanacha b'smali. So the Tanakama again, the first opinion when it says yad stam, it means left. And this kshatim chesaftem, just like ksiva was with the right, so too kshir is with the right. If kshir is with the right, automatically it must be that hanacha is on the left. Rabbi Yossi HaChoyrim, hanacha de b'smal minale. Where does he know it from? Nafklem hechte nafklem Reb Nasan. He knows it from kshatim chesaftem. He knows it from Reb Nasan's limud. Rav Ashi Amar, a third opinion. Why do you put your tefillin on your left hand? A third opinion as to why you're putting what? Your tefillin on your left hand, right? It says miyotcha. It's written. The pasuk's written with a hey at the end. Kol pet rechem chol basa sheyakrivu Hashem b'adam v'hema Yelecha. I'm reading you the wrong pasuk. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, that's another pasuk. So again, it says Yadcha. The pasuk says Yadcha, and Ksiv Behei Keya. We dash guys Yad Keya, your weaker hand. Yad Keya, your weaker hand. Good. Amalei Rav Abba Rav Ashi ve'ema Yadcha Shebekayach. Your hand that is the strongest. You know, sometimes the Hey and the Ches are interchangeable, and therefore we'll read it not as Yad Keha but Yad Kocha. Amalei. So Rav Ashi said, Rav Ami, miksiv beches. What does it say a ches? Doesn't say beches. Kitanai, yotcha behei, zu small. Acher moime yotcha l'rabbi says hagidem. It's because yotcha is to remember what a gidem is a person who is a amputee, you know, or his hand is withered. He doesn't have control. If he doesn't have control, right, it's not working. His hand's not working. So now, when he has the rabbis that he's chayiv and tefillin, right? Obviously, he doesn't have a limud that it should be for the weaker hand. He doesn't have a limud. Tanya idach ein loy lisroya. If a person doesn't have a hand, patim and tefillin. Acher roimim yadcha. The rabbi says agidim. It's called agidim. Okay. So first of all, the name Rabbi Yosef Achayim, the top. Rabbi Yosef Achayim says we know that what he says that you find yamin is yad. Rashi says, who is Achayim? Chaytmai mishuka. His nose was mishuka, was sunken. Kidamina b'chayris. Charim zeh shechaytmai mishuka. One of the balei mumim of a bechar is a bechar that its nose is what is mishuka. It's pressed in. Says Taisvis. Perish b'kuntris. Chaytmai hayesh shakua ke'ein charim the b'chayris. B'tema. Who? Loima shekineu b'lashon ganai. You're going to call him, you know, guys. Remember, we had I know, I hate when I remember something and I say you remember, like I expect you to remember, but you will remember it. Rabbi Akiva, there's an opinion that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha was Rabbi Akiva's son. Why was he called Karcha? Harold? No, he was bald. He was a kireach. So they said. You're talking, you're going to go ahead right and say that, you know, call it because he's bald. In other words, we don't do that. You don't go ahead and figure out someone's name because of some type of physical characteristic. So therefore, it says Rashi, it says Taisus, how could it be? El al Shem Mekoimim Nikrakein. It must have been that was the name of his place. It must be the name of his place. Now I have a very interesting pshat over here about Yosef Achayim. Very, very interesting pshat. I'll share with you. It's Beseda Hadairis, okay, Bir B'Shem Hasheris Yaakov, Sha'akavana Rabbi Yosef, Sha'amar Din Mechudish B'Bechayris, L'gabe Misha Chayt Meshakua, L'chein Nikra Kain. In other words, he was not Chayt Meshakua, but Rabbi Yosef was Mechadesh, a din in the mum of Chayt Mosh. So they gave him that nickname. No, that was his chiddush, but not that he physically had that impediment. Right, it was since he had mentioned it, right? So he came associated with it. You know, like in Europe, they used to call the guys from the town they came from. It was they called it the town they came from. This is guy Remeya Bealistaka, Reb Chaim Stuchina. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz guys was called Reb Chaim Stuchina because he came from Stuchin. That was, you know, they named it after the town Avigdor Pinska. What? Breslov, right? Nachmi Breslov. Okay. 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 So that's the source of his name. So guys, we have three pshatim. One, that anytime it says Yad Stam, it's the left. We have another pshat. Since you're going to go ahead and do kshira, it says kshira v'chsaftam, just like you write with your right, so too you tie with your right. If you're tying with your right, it's your left. And Rav Ashi says, right, it's Yad Keya. My nafkamina.
Right. Well, same thing. Yeah.
Not really. Not really, guys. Listen. According to the first pshat, if the guy is mamish a lefty, he does nothing with his right hand, why does he put the tefillin on? He still puts it on his left hand. It has nothing to do with weakness. Again, what's the pshat? Anytime it says yad, you're going to put it on your left hand. Anytime it says yad, you're going to put it on your left hand. So even if you're totally... I have children who are totally, I have 50% lefties. I have Canine children, 50% lefties. And it's an interesting gene because they all have blue eyes. And the other ones, the brown here but I'm saying, you see, it's a link gene, and the mamish. I mean, you know, according to the first pshat, they will put tefillin on the left hand, like a righty, because it just says, right? It says yad, yadcha. The second pshat.
But don't we have some places where they call the left hand the right hand for the left person?
Again, no. Oh, that's after they go ahead and said the week. I'll get to it in a second. I'll get to it. According to the second pshat, ukashatem ukasaftem, right? So you write just like you write with your right hand, right? And it says Rashi said roiv. So Rashi's telling you, since roiv are the people write with their right hand, you're going to put, even a lefty is going to put it on what? Is going to put it on like a righty. The only pshat that is what we do is Rav Ashi, Yad Keya. You go after the weaker hand. So you put it on your weaker hand. A lefty therefore puts it on his right hand. A lefty therefore puts it on his right hand. Now, Ksiva is one of the ways of ascertaining. Ksiva is, and it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, it's brought down that you go after the way the guy writes. However, that's not where it ends. It doesn't end there. So in other words, when you say that the lefty, we're going to see in a second, the lefty, we'll get to it, Bez Hashem, in a second. But again, I wanted to set you up. It really is an afkamina according to which one of the three things. So now we're going to get into left-handedness. Tana Rabbanan. Ita meniach tefillin biyaminai. A left-handed person puts his tefillin on his right hand. Shu smoilai, which is his left. That's what you were talking about, Benji. Aiva Tanya meniach b'smolo, su smolo shel kol adam. Okay? It says what? He puts it on his left, which is the left of every person, and therefore he should put it on like a righty. Rabbi, speaking about a person who is ambidextrous. Person ambidextrous. Now, Reb Moshe has a tshuva in Chelik Dalid, Siman Yud Aleph. It goes on and on and on. I called Reb David. I had a problem with.
Lefty. My son also.
No, listen. My left-handed kids are totally left-handed. There's not a problem with that. They put on the right hand. My third son does everything in the world right-handed except one thing. This idiot writes with his left hand. The only thing your own son could do, everything. It was enough that he gave me tzaros in school, but when it came to his bar mitzvah, he did everything right-handed except one thing.
What does he bat?
But he bats righty. No, but it's very interesting that Pinney brings in Reb Moshe takes into account what you throw a ball with. In other words, what the sport, how you play sports is one of the criteria of you're right-handed or left-handed. So I Baruch Hashem, I only found this years later. I asked Rev David, and he ended up putting on like a righty. He told me. He said he can't do it. He said he can't. I said, you're right with your left hand. He goes, yeah, that's it. I can't do it. He was uncomfortable doing it. It didn't make any sense to him. It was fascinating. So the Shevet Levi says, a person who does everything with his right hand and does everything right and even writes lefty, puts it on like a righty. Why? It says ukashartem uchasavtam, that kshira takes precedence over ksiva. That kshira takes, in other words, kshira, your ability to tie, takes precedence over what? Ability to write. And therefore, even though he writes to the lefty, it's fascinating. But you won't believe the shilas that are involved with this. It's really very interesting that Moshe's tshuva. Here's the marmakim. The chelik daled arachayim, right? Siman Yud Aleph. So, and then he goes. Moshe goes to town. But again, the Shulchan Aruch brings in that you go after just. Ramah says v'cheinoigin simply. If you go according to Ramah, every lefty. If you go after only what he writes with. If you notice that my kid who's a righty would end up putting on with the left hand. It's so interesting. So you're a lefty. You do everything left-handed.
Most, and my son had a problem because my son plays certain sports left, certain sports right.
What does he write with?
He writes with his left. He plays tennis.
What does he feel stronger?
He says equal.
Huh?
And we asked the Charlotte time. He said, put it on your right hand like a lefty.
Like a lefty.
Because he's righty and both, and he's some sports he bats righty, but he plays tennis lefty.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Isn't it?
My kids never played tennis. Anyway.
Plays football like a righty.
Real. No, basketball, football,
What hand do they hold the club?
It is on a picture. Picture's left. That's all. There's more defense than offense in football. So
Okay. Again, it really is a very fascinating subject. By the way, it's a fascinating subject. It's not, and again, there's a lot of Shulchan Aruch is pretty basic, but there's a lot of rate on this. Moshe goes to town again. I asked Reb David. I called up Baruch Hashem. I called Reb David and Reb Yehona's son and Baruch Hashem.
He speech off as a fire.
Huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay, fellas. Tana Beri Menashe. Al Yodcha. Al Yodcha. Zu Kiboiris. That's your bicep. Beinei Necha. Zu Katkad. That's your skull. In other words, you don't say Beinei Necha means right between your eyes. You mean you put it on top where we do. Heicha. Amid Bereb Yanai. Mokem Shemoiche Shel Tinoik Roifes. It's the mokem. It's the place that the tinoik at the fontanelle is what is soft. Yeah. Boy mine flimoy, me Rabbi, misha yesh le shnei rashim, be'ez mehem meniach tefillin. The guy has two heads. On which one do you put tefillin? So Amalei, Rabbi told Flimoy, I kum gali, either get up and go to galus, I kibul alach shamto, I'm going to put you in chayrim. In other words, he's asking stupid questions.
Yeah.
He's asking stupid questions. Adahachi, as the case would be, Asahu Gavra, a person showed up. Amalei, Isyali Yanuka had a baby. Dislay Trey Resh. Reshe. In other words, it's a Siamese twin. It's a Siamese twin. Kama bein in the mace of the Kayin. How much do I have to give to the Kayin? Asahu Saba came to Saba. Tanale Chayiv Litin Le Yud Slayim. You have to give what? Yud Slayim. 5 for each head. Ini is really so. But Tani Rami Barchama Mitoich Shenemar Podei Sifta Es Bechor HaAdam Shemei Ani Afilu Nitraf B'Toich Lamid. I might think that what even becomes a tray for Mitoich Lamid or it gets killed B'Toich Lamid. Machlekes Rashi and Taisvis. I might think that what that you even Mitoich Shleishim you have to go ahead and give money. Tamid Leimar Achalach, so you don't have to pirish. You go ahead. You wait 30 days, fellas, because of you want to make sure that the child is not a nafel. It won't die. Now, if you need a limud to teach me if it gets killed or becomes a treifa, according to Taisus, within 30 days, which is not a natural occurrence. So I would think that maybe if this didn't happen, maybe it would have lived. So maybe if it would have lived, I would think that you have to go ahead and be paida, because to have a havamina that had this unnatural event happen, maybe it would have lived. So I need a limud to tell me, no, in that case, you don't give. So mela, with two heads, it's not living. Says the more shiny hacha de bigagolis talar rachmana. It's totally bigagolis. What? So they came out at the same time. It's shaykh. It's shaykh to come out at the same time. It's one thing. It's shaykh to come out at the same time. It's shaykh to come out at the same time. It's two heads. Now Yedua, one of the most famous chuvas of Ramosha. This was very nageya. There was a child born with two Siamese twins. There were Siamese twins with two heads. They were connected by the heart. And if you would go ahead and disconnect one would live and one would die. It was a tshuva that was, anyway, as fate would have it, there was a general doctor there in Philly. It was in Philadelphia. And he was a very, very, very orthodox guy. And his name was C. Everett Koop. He ended up being the Surgeon General of the United States. He was a frum Christian. He was a frum Christian. He was a religious Christian, and they knew that if they didn't know what to do, and he was really concerned. And he says, whatever that little rabbi from the east side of New York tells me, that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And that's why he became the Surgeon General. And that's why they say that's why he became the Surgeon General. Because I'm not touching this. Whatever that little rabbi said, that little rabbi from the east side of New York, the little rabbi, he meant it like a giant of a rabbi. And Moshe's tshuva, I think if I remember correctly, Moshe said one has a luch of a roidif on the other one. The one has a luch of a roidif on the other one. That's why habola agecha hashkem v'hago. Can you imagine? They knew one would live. One was stronger. One was strong. Again, mostly I don't know the truth. I'm just telling you hearsay. I never looked at it. I never saw it. I'm telling you hearsay. I'm just giving you an idea of a tshuva that he had a paskin. Who can paskin Shashayla?
Medical school, we had 6 fertility. She had 6 babies that they weren't all going to survive. They had to get rid of at least 2 babies
from a womb.
from inside. The Shiloh was which baby do they
Jeez.
get to? So it was the same idea. They actually went, they passed with the one that's easiest. It was right above, right at the skin.
Right.
That was the easiest to abort. They passed in, it was a medical school. And they said that's the one that they have to, because same thing, that's the right of easiest to
Like
get.
reduction, right?
Yeah, it was crazy Shiloh. But I remember we were talking about Ramesh's Shiloh.
The Moshe Shuv, the story of Moshe Shuv, and yeah, that it was it was unbelievable. You have what?
They had multiple, maybe it was 4, or I don't know, they had a.
It's very, very, it's unbelievable.
Decision.
Yeah, it's a decision. It's life altering. Isn't it? It's unbelievable.
Ramesh's at the Shiloh, that's what I remember.
I don't know if it was this Shaila that Ramesha called to consult my Rebbe. I'll tell you Maisa, guys. The Maisa Shaila. When my Rebbe became a dayan on the Bezdin in Vilna at the age of 22, he took his Shver's place. It was a big rash. The Vilna Bezdin was the Bezdin. Rav Chaim Moshe was the head of the Bezdin. This was the makar for all of Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, America, anywhere, Europe. Everything came through that Bezdin. That was, and his died before his Shver died before the wedding. And Rav Chaim Moshe, who was an Isaac in getting the shidduch because he was sick, right? And so he chose my Rebbe to be the chassan. He also told my Rebbe that you're going to take his place. And the guy married, and Shaila came to Rashiva, and Rashiva said, "What are you asking me? Go to Rav Chaim Moshe." So Rav Chaim Moshe sent back to him, called him in. He goes, "You want to get your check? You want to get paid?" He goes, "You paskin." So Rashiva said from that time on, he never had any fear because Rav Chaim told him, "You can paskin." Rav Chaim Moshe said, "You can paskin." He told me that Moshe came to him with a shaila. He said, Pashit, he was scared. He said, Moshe took him by the arm. He goes, Lama again around in the Dalach, let's go. He said, when Moshe did not have any fear. When Moshe didn't have any fear. So, it gives you an idea of who Rav Moshe was. He said, and I think it's the shaila. I think it's the shaila. They say once that somebody walked in and Rav Shlomo Zalman was beaming. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He was beaming. He said, "Why is he beaming?" He goes, Rav Moshe called to consult with him. You don't realize, fellas. The younger guys don't realize. Psak was in America. When Moshe was alive, Psak was in America to all the world. That was the final stop. When Moshe's Patira, then Rabbi Yashiv went to Eretz Yisrael. But until Rabbi Yashiv, right? Yashiv, he went through every single tshuva of Moshe, everything. He said, "Well, he was so enamored of Moshe." He said, "Why?" He said, "Rav Aaron was in Eretz Yisrael, and he was Rabbi Yashiv, and he was on the phone, and he put on his hat and stood the whole time he was on the phone speaking to Rav Moshe." Rabbi Yashiv said, "That Aaron Kotler is giving cover to that person," and he went through everything because of that. It gives you an idea. Man, it's Pella Ploim, guys. It's Pella Ploim. Okay. Anyway, so so now you have, so since it said it's a Gilgoilis, so Memela you have to give both. Gilgoilis Tali Rachmana, and since it's Tali Gilgoilis, so Pidyon Aben you have to give one for each. Amamar. Okay, going back over the Brisa. Amamar, going back over the Brisa. Yodcha Zuki Boiris, that refers to the bicep. Minalon, how do you know it's the Kibaris? It says Yodcha. How do you know it's the Kibaris? Tan Rabbanan. Al Yadcha, Zugoy v'shebiyad. It's the upper part of the yad. Ata oime Zugoy v'shebiyad eina ella al Yadcha mamish. Maybe you put it in your palm, guys. Your yad, your biceps, not your arm. I mean, maybe I would say maybe you put it over here. Your bicep is your arm again, using the vernacular. But again, I could just see my hand as well being part of Yadcha. Yad, your hand, right? Yad means hand. So I would think maybe it means the yad mamish. Says Amar Torah, Hanach Tefillin biyad, v'Hanach Tefillin b'roish. Mala halam, but Tefillin shel roish b'goy v'sheb'roish. As we saw, it should be yesterday. It should be up. So we should be up. Klal Yisrael should be up. Afkan so by the Tefillin shel yad b'goy v'sheb'yad. The high part of the yad. That's the first limit. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer, right? Ein tzarich, right? You don't have to learn it out from Tefillin shel roish. Hari Aimer v'hayu l'cha la'ois. It says la'ois al yadecha. And the mashma that tefillin has to be what? It has to be what? L'cha lois, l'cha lois, l'lachem lois. Fellas, if you go ahead and have your tefillin in your hand, everyone can see it. What we do is we put that tefillin on our arm and we cover it. It should be for you and nice and no one else. So Mamela, obviously by that, it has to be on the top of your arm. Because if it's in the lower part of your arm, it's revealed to all. It's the lower part of the arm, it would be revealed to all. Okay. Now finally, Rabbi Yitzchak Eimer, Ein it sarach, you don't even need this. Hari Eimer v'samtem es dvarai eile alavavchem ukashartem shetehesima keneged alev. It should be v'samtem es dvarai. These words should be keneged yalev. Right. So when you put on your tefillin, right? When you put on your tefillin, if you put it on in your hand, lower, it's not near your arm, but you put it on your bicep, it's right opposite your heart, right? So Rav Chia bereid Rav Avya mechavin umonach le lahade libe. In other words, not only did he put it on his bicep, but he turned it towards his heart, right? He turned it like so. You put it, you invert it a little bit towards the heart. Rav Ashi have a yasser kamei da meimar. Rav Ashi was sitting in front of a meimar. Havit Syria biyade. So he had a rip in his shirt. He had a rip in his shirt, and you were able to go ahead and see. You're able to see what the tefillin, the komischase tefillin. You're able to see it. So Amalei, Rav Ashi said to Ameimar had the rip in his shirt. Le'savel Amar, do you not hold the chol ois v'le'achem lois that now people can see it? So Amalei, Ameimar told Rav Ashi, bimkoim l'chol lois itmar. It says in the place, right? To leave it in the place that most people can go ahead and hide it. But the kavanah is not that you have to go ahead and cover it. It has to be in a place where it could be covered. But the minig is if you could cover it, that you should we do cover it. Now we said that the tefillin is Goyva Sheb Rosh Minal. How do you know it's in the top of your head? Tanur Rabbanon, he says, so Goyva Sheb Rosh. Atam is Goyva Sheb Rosh. You say it's the top of the Rosh. Ayena Ella Beinei Necha Mamish. Maybe it's between your eyeballs, between your eyeballs. Nema kan beinei necha, v'nema lahalon, like say simu korcha beinei necha lemeis. Now the goyim, when they would find out about someone who died, they would rip the hair out. Now obviously it can't be speaking between their eyes, but speaking they would take the hair and they would rip it out. So therefore it says simu korcha beinei nechem. Do not make a bald spot between your eyes. So malahalan there it's speaking begoyve sheberoish. It must be speaking where you're ripping out your head. So makam she oisa karcha, the place where you make yourself bald. Afkan, so too by the tefillin shel roish, begoyve shel roish, makam she oisa karcha, the place you make yourself bald. So we learn out from the halacha of karcha, of slicker karcha. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, ain't it sarach? You don't have to learn from karcha. I have another source. Amr Taira, hanach tefillin biyad, v'hanach tefillin beroish. It says tefillin biyad. It says tefillin beroish. Mala halam by the tefillin of yad b'makam aroi litame b'nege echad. Now in the goyim fellas, it seems to be that the one here on your yad would make you into a mitzayra, a colored hair. Another colored hair in your head would make you a mitzayra. But between your eyes, you can be mitzayra one of two reasons: either in the skin itself or in the hair. So the limit is, just like yad is only negeya, one nega, and not two, so too the place where you put tefillin of the roish is also where only one factor can make you into a mitzayra, right? Mashenkin, if it's between your eyes, there are two things that can make you mitzayra: the basar and the hair. So Mamela, that's the limit. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, ain't it sarich? Omer Torah, hanach tefillin biyad, v'hanach tefillin b'roish. It says tefillin biyad. It says tefillin b'roish. Mala halon. Just like by tefillin shel yad, b'makam aroi litame b'nega echad, one simin, right? One simin is a white hair. Afkan by tefillin shel roish, b'makam aroi litame b'nega echad, which is a golden hair. Lafuke b'nei necha, that would exclude b'nei necha, dika basa v'seir. You have two ways to become, either through the basa or the seir. The ika basa lavon, the ika nami, ser tzahov. You have the basa, the skin becoming white, or in your hair becoming golden. So in that case, it would make you into mitzayra. What the Arbet Satzias Mak V'Suesu. The four tzitzis are ma'ak with each other, right? And Rabbi Yishmael said each one is a separate mitzvah. Right? This Mishnah took place a long time ago, right? So you have Arba Tzias dem Akiv each other, meaning if you're missing one, according to the Tanakama, you're out. If you're missing one, according to the Tanakama, you're out. And according to Rabbi Shmuel, no, on each one, according to Rabbi Shmuel, each one is a separate mitzvah. My binayu, Rabbi Yosef, sadim b'tzitzis, it could be nayu. Let's say your tzitzis were made out of shatnez. Let's say you had a woolen beged, and you had a beged of linen, and it's made of wool. So if, let's say, one of your tzitzis is gone, later Tanakama, since you're not becoming a mitzvah, you'll be over on Loisel B'Shanis. Later Rabbi Shmuel, that each one is a mitzvah, so you will be okay. Mm-hmm. So Rabbi Yosef, Tzad Mitzvahs, it could be nayo. Rava bar Ahina Amar, Talis Balas Chamesh, it could be nayo. Now, let's say, guys, you take your tzitz and you cut the beged, and the diagonal in the corner, now you have two corners, right? You have two corners, right? It's still mechayiv in tzitzis, like the Tanakama, but you'd only add one. According to Rabbi Shmuel, that each one is a mitzvah by itself. You'd put another one, you'd have five. Ravina Amar de Rav Huna, Yakibinayu, Nafkim, this Rabbi Dam Rav Huna, Hayotze Betala Shena Mitzutzayos, Kil Chasa B'Shabbos, Chayiv Chatas. Right? The reason that tzitzis is bottled to the beged when you're mekayim the mitzvah tzitzis. If it's not bottled to the beged, it's a masoi, it's a load. Yechayiv ha'itza. Fellas, again, if you wear tzitzis, that, let's say you go out with a beged that has three and you're missing one, you're carrying because you're not mekayim the mitzvah. Like Rabbi Shmuel, you will be mekayim the mitzvah, so that'll be another nafkamina. So we have the nafkamina of shatnez, we have the nafkamina of five corners, we have the nafkamina one of going out on Shabbos. Rav Shisha read Rav Idi, Hayman de Batzre leglime. He goes ahead and he cuts his beged, and he makes it like a diagonal that you have five. Le'yoviv leklum, because Shavya talis balas chamesh. He's making his talis balas chamesh, and the talis that's the balas chamesh is in fact chayiv, guys. So we said you don't have to. You haven't destroyed the beged. If you don't say, well, it's not a four-cornered beged, it's a five-cornered beged, and since it's a five-cornered beged, you don't have to put in tzitzis. You still would have to go ahead and put in tzitzis. You'd still have to go ahead and you'd still would have to go ahead and put in tzitzis, even though it has five corners. Amar of Mishashia, Hayman did Saire leglima. He folds up his beged and he ties the corners in order to pattern from tzitzis. He wants to take off the corners. So he folds over the corners, and that shouldn't have corners over here. Right? Loyover loy klum. Right? It's still chayiv and tzitzis. My timer, the command is shar yadami. Since in the end he's going to take out this knot, inevitably it's going to be taken out. It's considered as if taken out already. It's chayiv. It's in the tzitzis. B'tanya nami kol chamasleis hatzruos. These are bags. These are bags of flasks of leather, but the bottoms are not permanent. They're not sewn. They have you could go ahead and take out the knot and it would fall out. Guys, it would fall out the bottom. In other words, it's leather, but it's not sewn. It has a base keybell. But it's very easy. If you take out the bottom, it's going to fall out. So it's like a trap door. Picture like a trap door in the bottom. So kol chamasais, these are leather flasks, hatzruos that are tied up to hoyros. They're not makabel tuma. They're not considered like a base kibble, because it's considered as if it's untied already. It's considered open already, right? Chutz mishel arbiyim, except for the Arabs, right? Except for the Arabs, and therefore they don't take it out the kesher. Okay, I guess that's the pshat. Rashi chutz mishel krim the darken bekach. That's the derech. That's the derech. That's what they do. Amar of Dimi minadoi Hayman de Chayte leglime. He goes ahead, he doubles it up, and to patam tzitzis, and he even sews it up that it shouldn't fall. In the first case, he folded it up. Over here, guys, he is sewing it up. He's sewing it up to patam it. Layover leklum. What in Isa delemi boile, because he wanted to say that what should he have done? Lifsuk l'shadya. He should have cut and thrown it away, fellas. He took the corner, he folded it over, and he sewed it up. Still chayiv, because if he wanted to get rid of it, just cut it off, make it permanent, throw it out. And when he didn't do that, is a raya that it's still chayiv and tzitzis. Okay, we'll stop over here.